All right, when should you transition from beginners clubs to more advanced clubs? I had this video, but the neighbors were putting on solar panels while I was doing it. It didn't sound very good. So we'll try again. So let's go through like a scenario from maybe beginner golfer, let's all the way to tour. Like, how did the clubs evolve from that? So let's start. So with a beginner, whether you get a Cougar set of clubs, I saw that comment before, that's hilarious, or your dad's old set of clubs. I had Cougars when I was a kid. And then, or if you do what I mentioned, you know, just grabbing, you know, a handful of clubs, name brand clubs and whatever, you know, if you're starting with your very first set of clubs and you're just swinging, one of the goals for us as instructors is, you know, and it's also for you as a student of the game, like if you can, one, just make contact, right? That's the first step. Number two, once you start making contact, you're hitting the club face more often, you should see the ball get up in the air. So the ball's getting up in the air on the regular basis. And then the next part is like, not only is it getting up in the air, but now we're gonna get distance. And everybody's greedy, we wanna see it go farther. So if we're seeing the ball get up in the air on the regular, we're hitting the club face more often, and it's also, we're starting to see distances gain. I always, you know, one of the thresholds for me is if I can see a student have, I don't care which club, any club that goes, that's not a driver, any iron that's going, or hybrid that's going 100 or to 120 yards on the regular. If we're seeing that happening, that's when we might have that conversation of saying, okay, what do you really want to do with this game? Because technically at that point, you could go out and play, I mean, a whole 360 yards. If you can hit 120 yards 3 times, you know, you can still play. It's, yeah, you're not going to make the tour with that, but you can still go out and have fun doing that. So we'll have that conversation. What do you want to do this game? And then that's where I might press them and say, okay, you know what? Let's see if we can get this 7-iron. It's going 120 right now. Let's see if we can get it to go 150, and I'll have them step on it. You know, as long as they're like not like coming out of their swing and making some totally different golf swing in order to hit it far. If they're making a fairly similar swing to the regular swing, and when they go to hit that golf ball, let's say they get it to go 140, they get it to go 150 even, but the ball flight's like squirrely. That's when we're having that conversation where these clubs are no longer going to support your development. And that's what I would say. Number one is when the golf club no longer supports your development or where you're headed, especially if this player wants to continue to play. We'll say, okay, well, you're going to continue to get more greedy. You're going to want more speed, and look what happened when you try and step into that swing. We're going to be losing control of the ball flight. And so when we look at the patterns, where erratic ball flight patterns is one thing. Even if you're like not a beginner and you're just playing right now and you're wondering if your clubs are good for you, if you're making really good solid contact but you can't seem to guess where that ball's going to end up after it hits, and you can't predict it, then that's where we start, you know, having that conversation about, well, what is the club doing to contribute to this? You know, is it not just your golf swing? It might be the club itself. Okay, so we have that beginner, we have that conversation. Let's say he says, I'm ready to go, I want to get into this. I don't care what you do next. You can go get fit. You can go just buy a store clubs at the used club store or whatever. But what needs to happen is we need to make a progression from whatever that shaft was before. If it was too weak, we need to move that into that next level, which would be a stiffer shaft. It could be a steel shaft. It could be a graphite stiff shaft. But we're not going to go to the X100 shafts or the player clubs. I know it feels like it, like, oh, I'm ready to go, coach. Put me in. I'm gonna get on tour tomorrow. We feel that. We feel like we can do that, and that's great. Keep that feeling. But the same reason I don't let that player stay in that regular shaft is the same reason I don't put them in the X100, where I can see them, I can tell, like, yeah, you're gonna be strong, you're gonna be great. But if I put them in that X100 shaft or that players club, they're never going to experience the club head at the bottom of the swing in any meaningful way. That club's going to feel like a 2x4, and they're going to develop bad habits. Just like how the guy who's swinging the regular shaft club for too long, he's going to develop bad habits. He's going to be aiming right and messing with ball positions. And so all sorts of bad habits can happen if you don't have the right club in your hands, and you start playing on, and you start putting these big expectations on this club is not going to meet it. So that's what I work on as a coach, is, you know, try to blend that level of that, their expectations and their commitment to the game, and then what they are doing now in their swing, and then I have to kind of predict what I think that's going to look like next season from now. Because honestly, if you got a guy who's really into it and he's like, I'm going to do this, I could say this next set you get, you might be out of it next season. So golf is expensive, and so that's a commitment levels there. So I recommend, so let's say that we get to that point. I typically that stage I usually don't do I wouldn't recommend fitting once they're going to get their next set. I would do a kind of a spot fitting where say, okay, you're going to get a regular shaft, regular shaft with a steel regular shaft. We need some more weight to it, or let's get this more stiff shaft, but we're going to maybe get a ½ inch longer because that I noticed when you do that. So I can do little spot fittings here or there and give them a general idea, and they can go out and get the clubs. And that's sort of just casual golfer. Go out, have some fun, but and even at this stage as a beginner, if you maybe you haven't even broke 100 yet, you're still like shooting in the 90s. You don't need to have a fabulous set at this point unless it just feels really cool to do that and you want to do it. I don't care. You can spend your money however you want. But what I'm going to do as a coach is I'm going to teach you how to swing those clubs and how those clubs have a limit to them. And then when you try and push those limits, I'm going to tell you when you go after it this way, or if that club is too big of a club for you, you're not going to be able to get that shot. This is what the shots you're going to have to deal with. So that's what I do on a regular with my students and when we talk about equipment. Okay, so after that, you got that set. Let's say you got fit and they fit you into a set, and you come to see me, and the swing's improving and you're getting better, you're getting even more greedy, you're getting some more distance. Now you're breaking 80, or let's even say you're just in the mid 80s all the time. You're like, man, there's a tournament coming up, I think I could do this. That's when the big kahuna starts. When you start thinking, you know what, I can see myself breaking 80 on the regular, and I can, see myself playing in some events, like maybe a member guest, or, sign up for a little baby pro-am. Okay, that's when we say, okay, that set that we just got, we're gonna go do a full fitting. Your swing at this point has to be fairly repeatable and very predictable. We're looking at nuanced ball flight. The dispersion rate from when our first one was pretty big. That ball was going all over the place, and we're just trying to get it closer. But now that dispersion rate, because now you've been playing a lot, you're seeing that you're like, no, I'd really like to be able to have a shot where I can get it to stay just a little bit more to the right. So you're getting really picky with your ball flight. And so these patterns that you see in your swing, you're wanting them to get a little more dialed in, and partly because you're also going to need those to get more dialed in because you're going to be playing in tournaments. So now that fitting makes a whole lot more sense. And we're going to fit all of the gaps that you have in your swing, in your bag. We've got to really make sure we fill in those gaps in that fitting, and we've got to make sure you have a club that you trust, you feel like you can play under pressure, and that will perform under pressure. Not this is what's tough about these fittings is don't let a fitter fit your ego, because that's easy for them to do. Plus, it's way more expensive, so they'll get a little better hit out of it. But be consistent with your expectations of what you can do now, and don't try at that stage. We're not really trying to fit into the future. Like, your swing should be pretty much where it's at. The equipment now really can help you. You can really talk to them about equipment, different face options, different, shaft options that can, kick points and stuff that will really get you more distance if that's something you need at that stage, if that's what you think that's going to take you to the next level, or if it's going to be something that's like more ball flight control that you think is going to take you to the next level. That's the conversation you have with that club fitter. So and then so let's say we're going to go all the way to tour, right? So you're in that stage. You're shooting under 75 every single time you go out. You're gonna have to get another fitting. If you're gonna try and shoot under par on the regular, you're gonna get. It just keeps going. It just keeps going. And the guys on tour, they're always got guys they're changing their clubs. You're gonna have to get every round of golf. They get the lofts and the lies readjusted back to normal. So the equipment is a big deal, and when it starts off at the beginning, it's not necessarily a big deal because our expectations aren't that high. We just want to make contact, and then as our expectations start to grow, so does the demands of the equipment. So that's something you can keep in mind. I will say, if there is something that you could fit early and get like something that you really like early in your development, that would be the wedges. Especially if you're getting the ball. Let's say we go back to that stage where you're seeing the ball get up in the air and you're getting some distance. Let's say you're not getting a ton of distance all the time, but you still want to go out and play and you want to improve. Getting your wedges, like the gaps in your wedges, like getting like a really good sand wedge, you know, a gap wedge, and maybe even a lob wedge or something in there. So one, you're going to be using those clubs a lot, so it's really important to get those in your hands often. And sometimes, I mean, I have wedges I've had forever, and those wedges could stick with you from from that next stage where you go to even almost a tour, as you guys that play with old wedges all the time. So that's one part of the, you know, let me spend some money on something that's really going to be useful. Spend it on the wedges, spend it on the short game stuff. 70% of your shots are from 70 yards and in. So if you're going to make an investment, make an investment there. All that other stuff, yeah, it's going to change in your development. You're going to get more distance, and as you get more into it. But don't try to fit the ego. Don't try to get too far ahead of yourself. That's what you come see a coach, go see your. Now here's another thing. Don't go to like, they're not gonna like me for this, but don't go to like a retail store to get your fitting. They have different motivations at a retail store when they fit. So I would recommend going to like your local golf shop, or a golf course that has a range, or even an indoor facility where you can get a fitting there, where they're not motivated necessarily by revenue from club sales. You know, the markup in a golf shop for clubs is not very good, so they're not looking at selling a new set of clubs every hour. They don't have an hourly sales goals going on. So keep that in mind if you are wanting to go and you don't want to spend a ton of money on something, or you want to get a really good fit, or even just getting a second set of eyes, like me as a coach, like, hey, what should I do? Like, I'm close. I feel like I'm getting consistent with my ball flight, but I need to know what I need to do next. So that's originally what golf professionals were designed to do, is to help do that. We weren't necessarily sit there as like sell a bunch of clubs, but we want to help you guys as golfers get to your next level that you want to get to. So find your local pro, hit them up, just a half hour lesson, probably an hour, where you say, I don't really need you to look at my swing, but maybe just look at what my development might be, and tell them your goals, tell them what you really want to do. And they should be able to answer these questions for you pretty easily, and it'll give you at least a good idea what to do. Okay, hope that helps. Talk to you later.